All right. So, hey, Gautam, welcome to this debriefing session and congratulations on scoring a 760. First of all, how does it feel?
It feels good. A lot of, you can say, a monkey off the head. Feels good to have a good score. So now looking forward to the further process. Basically,
Okay.
nothing more.
Nothing more. Okay. Did you expect a 760? I know you said, one of your cousins who
Mm,
got a 730 recommended the score. So were you
I
hoping a
actually
760?
didn't. No, I never thought I would get a 760. So like the one cousin, I always thought he was smarter. So yeah, I was like, hopefully get to 720. It'll be good enough. The mock which I had given, the official mock was 740. Like maybe hopefully I'll get anywhere around that. The 760 was like, that's good.
So what happened when that score flashed on your screen? What was your
I
look on your?
think for a moment it flashed on my screen. I went blank. The only thing on my mind was just accept that score, nothing cancel or anything, just accept, move out. And my parents were outside, so they were here only. So and just I wanted to tell them that I was 760 right now.
And do they understand 760 is 99
Yeah.
percentile
Yes.
and you're in the top
May
1%?
not be percentile. They know what's a good score. They were like, we were basically used to talk, so they knew 720 was what I actually minimum wanted. I could get 740, so they knew my scores. They were very supportive throughout. So like when my mom heard 760, she was like, "Yeah, crazy, that's good." So she was relieved as well as really happy.
Okay, and yeah, I can understand after two CAT attempts
Yeah.
that can happen. So let's kind of talk about your GMAT journey. So you said you started preparing in March of 2022. You started with GMAT Club. So tell us, what did you do? What was your thought process about preparing then, and then how did you kind of stumble upon the GMAT course?
So basically, the GMAT Club is a quite a popular website, for popular forum for GMAT. So I started working on that, mainly on the verbal section. So that was one place where I thought I had to really improve a lot. So basically, my main thing in GMAT Club was trying to solve as many questions as possible of different levels. So I can say, maybe decent. The forum helped clear a lot of stuff, get new stuff in. But the one thing was, on a lot of questions, you used to have different views of different people, and it was sometimes confusing. And then you'll end up being confused on a next question. So I was like, somewhat within my mind, I was looking for something which was clear and structured. But after that, I think I met one of my cousins who had done this course. He recommended me that you should definitely do it. It helped him a lot. So I was like, I'll try it out. So I was working. So he was like, you can complete it during the end of the nights. You can do the course. It's doable. So I was like, let's give this a try. I took the course, and I think overall it was a 2-month course. I completed the sentence correction part, RC part, did critical reasoning part also.
I think let's kind of go back. So you're a working professional. You work in a
Yes,
plant.
yes.
You said you work 9 hours, 5 days a week. How much
Yeah,
time do
yeah.
you have to study every day?
Uh,
How much good
Ideally,
time?
if you
Good time.
good time, 1.5, 2 hours of good time was sufficient, I believe, for me. And maybe some days you can stretch for half an hour. So half an hour was like plus minus half an hour. 2 hours plus minus half an hour,
What
you
about
can
the
say.
weekends?
Weekends, you can say much more work, because that's the time you really get. So 4 hours, 5 hours. So that depends on how close you are to your exam. So closer to the exam, the time extends. But initially, I can say 4 or 5 hours, towards the later phase, 6 hours.
Got it.
And
Okay.
I won't include I think even during the weekends, you give a mock, maybe another 3-4 hours for that after the mock.
Got it. So when you were on GMAT Club, right? What are I mean, you were solving questions. Clearly, as I said, you were not bad, you were decent. So what were the key areas where you felt, hey, you're not quite there yet? What part of verbal felt like, hey, I need a more
What
structured approach
part?
to this?
So first part was pronouns. So there is a
Well, I mean,
pronouns part.
let's talk about this first. Let's talk about the subsections. So SCC, out of SCCR and RC, which ones?
Okay, so basically two of my weakest subsections, you can say, is sentence correction and RCs. So in the sentence correction part, pronouns section, the modifiers section, and the parallelism section. So I thought these were my weakest. The subject verb agreement part, I believed I was quite good at it. So these were my 3 weak points, I believe. So actually, these points I joined the course, but I did the course from the start. So actually I think I improved in all facets. I got to know a lot more things which I didn't know then. So that's for
Okay.
the
So let's
sentence
kind of go to
correction.
RC. Huh?
And in the RC section, I think the main point question was when I thought I will suggest in the higher difficulty levels. So I will always used to get stuck between two options and mark the wrong one a lot of times.
Okay.
And I think inference type questions also I used to sometimes struggle. So that was the two things. So those were the things for which I joined the course.
Okay. So when you started the course and then you did all of sentence correction course and then you did about
Yes.
80% of RC course. So let's start with sentence correction. You joined the course, you started doing it. What was the difference that you felt with regards to how you were approaching sentence correction, the clarity that you got versus what you had when you were solving questions on GMAT
GMAT was firstly the approach to get to the right answer was one thing which I really helped me. So if you can tell me, like I used to initially look at each option, think of it, and which is the right one. I used to try to get to that. So initially, after a point of time, you can come that the first part in this is wrong. So when your concepts are clearer, you can easily eliminate. Like if your concepts are not clear, you always keep it as a on hold.
On
Maybe
hold, yeah.
this doesn't. Yes. So once your concepts are clearer, you straight away eliminate. You come to an answer much quicker. Firstly, quicker, and you're much more sure about it.
So what you're really saying is you were much more confident that this is definitely wrong and you were able to get there faster. And when you say approach, what approach are we talking about?
The first thing about the approach, one thing which I'll always say is the meaning based approach. So what really stood out was a lot of times we don't understand the meaning of the sentence. We read it and we just think what is the right part. Towards the initial phase of my preparation through EGMAT, I concentrated on trying to actually find what the sentence is trying to imply. And a lot of times when you read the options after that, you actually come to know that the meaning which they are implying is completely different. So on that way also you can eliminate. And after a point of time, it became subconscious. You can say like, you don't really need to actually stop. It does become subconscious and you start to mark based on that.
And did the timing improve then?
Yes. Initially, actually, you can say it got a little bad because it takes time to, you're going to a new approach. So it takes time. But after a point, you can say that it increase was a slightly more than, you can say exponential type. Like it, you more time and then suddenly it started to decrease once you started to get the hang of it. So that's what I'll describe it as.
Got it. So you did the course and then what did you do cementing after that?
Yes, cementing quizzes, ability quizzes, and mock tests. So these were the three things. I would generally give cementing quizzes, I think, every day. One of each section of verbal, I can say. And sometimes of the SC or RC, I used to give one more because those were my weak points. So that's what I'll say. I think a sentence correction had loads of questions. So you can always, whenever you want, you can always give one test. You don't feel confident, you can give one. Or so in that case, once I think I completed a good part of the course, I moved to the cementing part. And as I did more and more questions, I started to get more and more clear about it. And after a part of cementing, I think I started the mocks part. My mocks weren't like, you can say, after a gap of some time I used to give. I didn't give mocks immediately one after the other.
Which is
after
good.
some times. So one mock.
So what did cementing do to you? I mean, what was the value of cementing for you?
I think value of cementing, what I said, subconsciously it got ingrained in me, the approach. So to subconsciously for an approach to get ingrained in you, the thing is you really need a lot of practice. So for practice, you need questions. So firstly, I got the questions through cementing. And whenever you go wrong, you need to know why you went wrong. So the most of the questions I think had a video answer. So that actually you know where you are going wrong, and once you have a lot of questions to do, it just automatically gets the process sort of gets in your mind. And once you do the mocks also, you realize where you are going wrong, where you are slow, fast. So basically it provided practice, and after practice it provided what you can say the why you are going wrong part, the
Why are you
doubt
going?
solving.
So did you have an error log?
Yeah, error log. I think eGMAT has an error log. So basically, what I basically looked at was different sections, and you generally get how much correct have you got in this, like subject verb, you get 80% right.
Accuracy stats and Coleraine.
Yeah, accuracy stats you could look at. And even I think within the accuracy starts easy, difficult, medium. So it's like on the GMAT, it's an adaptive test. So it's imperative that you have a higher accuracy on the easy and the medium part, especially the medium part. So I used to have particular emphasis on the medium part, that I'm very highly accurate in it, so that I actually get to see the hard questions on the GMAT and I can do.
So you understood the format of the test,
yes,
essentially.
Yes. Format of the test, in the first slide of each GMAT course in this format. So
that's good. I'm glad you did that. I mean, essentially, your hard stats were very good. You're about 65-70%. And I love the consistency. I'm going to kind of later on send you the chart of your hard stats. It's a portion that we just released about a month and a half ago. So you probably didn't see it, but we were just capturing your data, and your stats were phenomenal. Very, very consistent performance overall. And then I think you've talked about. So let's talk about RC then. So what was the difference in RC for you?
So I think the first video, I think there was RC. First was main point. So that actually was one of my weakest sections, what I thought. So basically the first video itself gave the biggest framework, that it has to encapsulate the whole para. So that itself was like, I think the course is good enough because it's telling me what to do. And I think that was because what I used to do was, this is one part of the para, this is the author's main point maybe. But when
you say if it's para 1 says that this is probably the main point, you didn't consider para 2.
Yeah, it was like not really, I didn't consider, but while marking the options, it happens that, yeah, you feel this is the more correct one. So once partial that scope part, I got it more clear, like if partial scope, and it's not doable. And I think over time, it was like, whenever you add a lot of words to the options to make it completely incorrect. So it's like a lot of times I noticed X is always true. The passage might be saying it can be true, but in the options it's always. So such small things, like you don't notice it while reading. And if you don't notice, you'll mark that answer, or you'll get confused and mark the wrong one. So basically these small aspects also I got to know. So
you were able to figure out the wordplay that the GMAT has.
Yes, the buzzwords, I used to call it myself. Like if I see an always, I used to be like very careful. Is
the passage saying that?
Yes, so that was one thing. So these 2 points, and in the inference base also, like, can this directly be inferred or not? It's very important to know that. Like you think, yes, it can be possible. And basically it was like, focus on the passage. Does the passage clearly state that? Can it be inferred only from the passage? Nothing outside knowledge or anything about that. So that was 3 things I said.
So how did you come to this understanding? I mean, this was very solid advice that you gave. But this wasn't there before the course. So how did you really just say, this is how I have to think about GMAT RC?
So actually, if you think, I'll give an example of an inference-based question. So when I used to see the eGMAT videos, it'll be like, there used to be 5 options. So during the explanation phase, if the first option comes, they used to locate the part of the paragraph in which that option came. So that was the first point of reference for me, that if I see an option, if I've read the passage well, I'll know where I have to look for to find whether this is correct. So a lot of the inferences are direct inferences based on a small portion. So after that, then you actually see this part reads this, what is the actual inference from it, and whether that actually matches. That was the second stage. That was for direct inference. And for those which encapsulate the whole paragraph or whole passage or multiple paragraphs, you basically I got to know that you have to look here and then basically read through it again. Maybe I used to read it once, and then it was like, definitely no, then I'll just eliminate. And there used to be options that actually stood out. Like you can say, I don't know how to actually put it, but when you actually read that section again and you're like, compare it with that option, does it actually mean the same thing? It's like a lot of times on the first look you thought maybe right, then after reading you're like, no, this doesn't seem, this is not the actual inference, it's a distorted form. So then after that, through practice, then you just identify it more easily.
Got it. So how did the solutions of RC questions help you?
RC question solutions, I think they were thorough, and they were basically what I had to do during the exam. They used to do it in a slower fashion. So it was like, again, as I said, during the SC part, it ingrains the process. So I think the most important part of GMAT is you need to have a strategy while doing a question, because on the day of the exam, you can be like, this, you need, what I can say is, if you don't have a strategy and you suddenly hit a roadblock, it can happen that you will be in a bit of a fix. So it'll be like you lose out on time also. So in that case, if you have a solid strategy, you go to a question. I think that was the thing. So it provided the solid strategy. It was all in slow motion, and then basically over time it sort of developed, and more whatever I used to get wrong, I used to sort of, maybe I used to think, oh right, I should have got this right. So that part. So I think that was the thing I would say.
Okay. So tell me one other thing. So in addition to providing questions, what did Scholarinium do to you? How did Scholarinium help you?
In addition to providing questions, you can say, again, same as RC, I think it gave me confidence basically. That, so what I noticed on the other GMAT club was the questions were a lot of, you can say, lot of difficult questions, sometimes too difficult maybe for the GMAT, I thought. And they were like, you don't know exactly how to arrive at a solution. So through the e-GMAT questions were, I think, more representative of the GMAT, the difficulty levels. So I basically was more confident in my own abilities that this is the correct level of question during the GMAT and I'm good enough for it. Not necessary that I need to really do all a very, very hard level. So that bifurcation of questions into the different levels was, I thought, very important. So once I felt like I'm not in a good mood, I'm not doing really well, I need more confidence. So I'll maybe do the easy or medium part.
I saw that, yes. I saw you going from hard and then to medium. You got your accuracy high and you did hard questions again.
Yeah, so that was one thing I used to always do. Like when I thought I was in a good space, I'm in good space, I'll do the hard questions, so that I didn't want to waste the hard questions. That's it. I wanted to do them when I have the best possible space. So that's what I used to keep. And to increase my accuracy, build more and more confidence, I used to do the medium parts. So that was my strategy.
You made some really good decisions during your preparation. I absolutely love that. So one last question, Gautam, about your preparation. So what did you do 2 days, 3 days? What did you tell yourself 2, 3 days before the test?
2, 3 days before the test, I personally was like, I don't want to do a lot of stuff. I'll be like, I was actually more into revising this SC concept. What I think, because it was like, you have done what you have to do. You have solved as much as you have. And after a point, it's like, what on 2, 3 days before the exam, a wrong answer affects you a lot more than it did otherwise. It's like, oh, what if I go wrong there? So like lesser questions, more about the theory, so that like if a lot of time it happens during the exams that one particular point you didn't know, you read and directly it can appear. So it will make it easier. And I think I'm laid more emphasis on the essay and the integrated reasoning part, because essay part I hadn't done a lot previously. And essay part is like, it helps your critical reasoning also.
It does, yes.
Just inherently. So that, I think that was it was a win-win situation. So I used to do a lot more of the essays, read essays which were there, and I also, I think, did a lot of the essays, wrote essays. So I think it helped me in my critical reasoning also. And I think 1 week before the exam, you can say I concentrated more on the official guide, also give an official test. And I think I didn't do a lot of work during the last week.
Okay. So this one last question was, okay. And this is something that I want you to just think probably a bit, not a whole lot, and then answer. As a 760 scorer, if I were to ask you, hey, Gautam, what do you think is the key to acing the GMAT? What would you say?
What is the key?
I don't think a whole lot.
Not a whole lot, but what I think is consistency is very important.
Really
like
important.
I think 1 day, 5 hours, and then 2, 3 days, you don't do a lot of stuff. It actually, it's like practice builds intuition, what you say. So if you do it consistently over a period of time, it then builds intuition. So I think during the initial phase of preparation, it's very important to be consistent. So once it gets ingrained, maybe you can have a little bit of leeway, but during the initial
just
phase,
a little bit though,
not a lot.
Yes.
Like at least some time per day. Like during my job, there were days sometimes where you used to have a lot more work, but still during those days, finding that 1 hour, 1.5 hours, so that you're always in tune with the process. I think that was very important, I thought, because the questions weren't like they were super difficult or undoable. But if you don't keep practice over time, then what happens is you get stuck, then you have to again revise. It's a iterative process then. If you
Yeah,
go
you
smooth,
end up wasting way more time then.
yes, with time, then you'll again revise concepts. Rather, it will be consistent throughout your preparation. You'll, I think, complete it quicker. You'll
Yes.
give, hopefully, mostly finish off the GMAT also quicker rather than lingering for a long time.
Yeah, you did it in
That's what
2 months. It's almost 100-point score improvement.
yes.
So let's talk about your MBA.
About the MBA, I am actually not very certain about like where to apply. I'm not very certain. I have yet to decide. So I'm like just a year and a half into my job.
Yep.
So I have to do a lot more research about what sort of things I should write in that application or where to apply. So
Okay.
I'm not really greatly known about this process, to be honest.
Let me tell you a few things, right? I think the key thing which is there that you have to understand, you're right. You're about a year and a half in your job. You've just joined, and there's a lot. And I think you probably have a year and a half before you should start writing your application. Okay. So don't focus on writing your application. Focus on understanding what is important to build when you write your application. Because you actually have a wonderful head start, which you have a luxury that most people don't. Okay.
True.
And so you were one of those people who potentially, if you invest the next 2 years properly, could get about $150,000 to $180,000 scholarship when you actually do apply, if you use the next 2 years. So that's how I want you to think about it. Now, what do business schools care about? Okay. If I were to really put this in one word, it would be impact in your organization and impact on people around you. Okay.
They don't care. I lost you for a second. Impact
on your organization and impact on people around you. Okay. Essentially, they don't really care about think about it this way. If you said, hey, I'm really good in Excel and I know macros. I actually know this, that, and blah 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 blah. Has nothing to do with what business schools won't care about it. Just if I were to give an example. On the other hand, if you really said, okay, I know macros and I looked at my processes which were there in my company, and I improved on those processes. And by the way, things that would take 5 steps, they were now converted to 2 steps because I automated a bunch of that and I reduced the time to do this. So it's not about macros, it's about the business output. And by the way, because of this, 4 more people were able to do their job better. Okay. That's gold for business schools. Okay. So it's impact. Because you made an impact, right? Not what you know, and which is where when you're talking about your cousin who has a CFA, that is immaterial. All that shows is he has interest in finance. It doesn't show that he's made an impact anywhere. Taking that another step further, if, for example, you basically said, hey, I was the one who actually learned data analysis in Excel. And by the way, there were 10 of my team members. I created lessons for them and I taught them, and they were all able to make further impact. And we were able to reduce the time to set up a new process, which is what you do, from let's say 4 months to 3 months and 20 days. Huge impact, because you've not only just impacted a process, but you've been able to help your fellow people. So that's something that is an impact. So you have 2 years to do multiple instances of those. Why? Because when you make those impacts, there's always struggles. It's not easy to do this. Learning something's very relatively easier. To have other people, to motivate other people to really follow your lead is much more challenging. But that's what business schools look for. Why? Because that's kind of what grows a business. When you multiply yourself. And
you're perfectly right.
So that is what you should focus on in terms of how can you make processes within what you're doing better. How can you actually make people more efficient? overall around you. Just look at, and you have, and when I said, you're in a wonderful space. Why? Because you're doing a lot of new things. A few months, you probably do a new process. And when you do a new process, there's a lot of opportunity to make that impact. So, and you are in a job that allows you to do that. So in my opinion, you're in a great space. You have the opportunity in front of you. You have the time in front of you. Now, imagine if you do a few of those instances, you're talking about a year and a half down the line. Imagine asking your supervisor to write a letter of recommendation around it. The person will have those instances. He will have seen those benefits out there. So, so that's, what I can tell you to focus on for the next year and a half or so. So 3 years down, when you have 3 years of work experience, that's when you start writing your application. And then those questions that you will see would be very easy to answer then.
Got it. I think it's a different thing for me. Like I used to always think it's more about the numbers. But
the numbers get you there. When you have a 760, B schools are already
not
looking
just
at
numbers,
you.
like it's personal perspective, not a very broader perspective, you can say. So I think maybe I had a more personal perspective. I had to do this, I had to do that, I should be able to complete more. So the perspective of having to have an impact on a larger audience, I think that's one thing I'll have to focus on more. Or maybe even what I have maybe done previously, I can try to have a greater deal of impact through just what I've done already, maybe. So it's not like I'll start again. Maybe whatever learnings already assembled in the year, maybe that also you can give it more to people.
Yes. So that's something that I would just say, focus the next year and a half on that. And frankly, if you do that, I've had people from your background go to schools such as Columbia, Stern, Wharton's possible as well. It's just about, you have the score to get anywhere, just to be very clear, with scholarships. It's about what you do with the next year and a half. That would make an impact. I'm saying this is about, next year and a half is about $150,000 worth of scholarship for you. So tell yourself where you're going to spend time. And yeah. Good. Any other question?
Any other question? I think one pertaining to one particular business school. So I think ISB is one thing I had heard about. So what I know about it is 24 months full-time experience after graduation. So in that case, I think 24 I'll join. So what's the actual, like for ISB is one thing with the process, and a brief overview of the process for other schools abroad also, because I'm not really very familiar with it. Like
the process is the same. There are multiple components to an application. You have essentially what B schools want to know. Let's say a very, are you capable of handling the coursework? That GMAT 760 puts you everywhere. Okay. The second thing they want to know you is, are you someone who can make an impact? That's where your profile comes in, where essentially what impact you've made is helpful. Your profile is not whether you worked at Google, whether you worked at Microsoft. Your profile is the impact that you've made. Okay. And so those are two things. Now that profile piece is expressed through multiple components. So you have one component, which is a set of essays where they really say, hey, why do you want to do an MBA? Tell us, what have you achieved that puts you? So why means what is your post-MBA goal? And then tell us what have you done that allows you to say, I'll be able to achieve that post-MBA goal with the kind of experiences I've had, plus what I would learn at business school. That's kind of a fundamental question that they have. And then you have the talk about questions such as, tell us about a scenario where you had to, where you made a mistake. How did you come out of that mistake? And what did you learn from it? It just talks about, hey, first of all, if you've never had a failure, then you've never tried new things. Okay. So failure is welcomed in at ISB as well as at USB schools. The question is, what did you learn from it, and how did you become a better person as a result of it? That's what they want to know. So that's kind of the essays piece over there. So that's one big component. The second big component of the application is your letter of recommendation, which again is very, very similar, where most schools require 2 recommenders. they look for very, very similar pieces. They'll ask you, okay, they'll ask a recommender. A lot of people from EGMAT go to business schools as well, so I give recommendations to them. So they say, tell us a scenario when you gave this person critical feedback. How did this person take that feedback? Tell us 4 achievements that this person, or 3 achievements that this person has had. What were the challenges that this person faced, and blah 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 blah. So actually, as a recommender, I have to kind of do a mini application for you. Then they ask you to rate. How would you rate this person amongst all the people that you've seen in top 5%, top 1% across various skills? And if you look at those questions, they're very similar to the impact questions, where they say when this person sees a problem, does he or she have a methodical approach to it? Do they actually present their ideas to this? Do they actually create a coalition to make sure that everyone understands what the problem is, how the solution will help, and then get everyone on board? So it's about that impact and in getting people on. So they're trying to get the same piece of information from other folks who worked with you, so that they want to see what you say versus what they say is in sync. And then the third piece, the third component of that is an interview where they try and get a very similar set of information out. So it's all about that impact, and they extract that piece of information through multiple pieces.
Got it.
That's
much more clear.
Yeah, it's just regardless of whether it's ISB, whether it's Darden, whether it's Wharton, it's kind of very similar.
I think I don't have really a lot of questions, because I think the one part of the process which I haven't yet to go through, I have a lot of time on my hand between that. So I think I've got an idea of where I need to concentrate on at present, and in future what sort of things await me. So the details of it, I think it's better to know about it at that stage when you're actually going through it. So I think I got a fair idea of what I need to do at present and what I'll have to do in the future part.
Yeah. One of the other things you could do, which is if you have your weekends now, you could start doing something for the community around you. Start teaching kids and other things. I mean, one of my a former students who got a 770, he's now studying at Booth, and he actually, so he had the same thing. He had about a year before he took the GMAT, a year before he applied. And during that year, he actually tutored kids in New York. He actually taught people for the SAT, and he used that time to do that. He would do that on the weekends. So you could essentially, again, it's, if you think about the theme is impact. Yes.
Yeah, I think there could be opportunities. So let's just look at opportunity. I think I'll find something definitely.
Oh, I'm sure you will.